So it's preparing live stream. It says got it. It's
Yeah.
being streamed. Let me just have a look at me laptop. Let's see now. Oh, come on, son. There you go. When I said laptop, I meant phone, really. I'm definitely losing it, because this week has been so weird. Weird, indeed, weird.
It
So
has. It has. It's been like, well, I was reflecting upon it earlier, just before getting ready for this show, and I was like, it's actually the 5th today, and it feels like it's been at least 2 or 3 weeks. This week it's been like breakthroughs and breakdowns, like on and off.
I couldn't agree more. It's like a disintegration and then like a rebuilding again and stuff like that. I got to think this is to do with high order calculus, right? And I thought, okay, explain to me what that means. Well, calculus is mathematics, Joe, and mathematics is about integral calculus. And that means in order to build and evolve into the next structure, there's got to be a disintegration. And we've talked about that before, haven't we? But what
Yes.
I've been getting this week is, right, the Norse gods. And this is your fault. This is your fault, right? You've
It's
brought
always
these.
good to have someone to blame, isn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely. I'm pointing the finger at you, right, Professor, right? And yeah, all week I've had like the shift from Odin, right, and the
Mm.
crows, right, to Thor, and I get that. And our place where we live, my wife feeds all the birds and the crows. There's been hundreds of them and I thought, okay. And then it got the move then to Thor's Day, so that was yesterday. But I keep getting the thing sledgehammer. And what comes along with that is the Valkyries, the ride of the Valkyries, but also links to the Maoris, but also very, very strongly, I get a samurai thing, a black suited samurai with the shield on, the gold shield, and I've had that all week. I don't know what these things mean, but sometimes when I get these visions or images, the power of them comes in as well. And so I'm getting a sort of a filled with empowerment or power, right, in order to go forward. And I've almost got this sort of laser like, it's like laser like sort of Excalibur. I've almost got this sword of cutting through all the crap and just going forward now, almost as if, the time for, well, the time is now, really. Does that mean anything at all?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like the themes now really, well, everything has to do with self-love, right? Because everything is interconnected, which means that we are a part of all as well. So you can't skip yourself.
No.
It has to go through self-love. And with that comes boundaries. It has, what you said with the sword, and like any like entanglement that isn't helpful, what's not aligned, finding out what's aligned, integrating, releasing all of it. And also with what you said with the different, like the samurai, the Norse gods, everything coming in, it feels real like I've had several experiences over the last days of feeling like I'm in several timelines at the same time. It's like I feel simultaneously that I'm experiencing several things and I see them clearly. And then suddenly it's like it's all collapsing. And I'm just like sitting, on my couch. And it's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And I've had like shorter experiences of similar things as to a life review. It hasn't been the whole life. It's been like, the last year. It's been certain areas of my life where it's like suddenly there's like a few seconds or like so many pictures coming up of something that has happened, and then I'm back, and it's so fast. Everything is so quick.
It's amazing, really, because what I got very clearly at the beginning of the week, I was thinking about you and me meeting in Houston. I was thinking about our connection, and I was thinking, Joe, this is back to your primary school playground days, right?
Yes.
This was before you were clobbered by society. Did you enjoy going to school? I loved it. I loved playing out. I loved playing in the playground. I shared the other day with Vicky, or I'll call her a Sunday name, Victoria Louise, right? that I used to like playing with the girls, right? And I've always done that really because I didn't feel safe with those roughy, tufty type men, you see, or boys, you see.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's still the same, is that the people I connect mostly with are females, you know,
Yeah.
because it's the feminine energy that I feel most comfortable in. But
Right.
it's also the feminine energy that ambushed me in lots of ways as well, because there's always like a shadow side of it as well, you know. And there's a thing seemingly to me anyway, globally going on about narcissism, you know.
Mm.
And it's not always the male that's the narcissist, you know,
Oh,
because
definitely not.
because there's that other side as well, you know, the manipulative side and all that sort of business. And I see clearly what's happening now is this truth vibration that's sweeping the planet. You know, no one's going to get away with anything really. It's coming up to smack you in the face about our own behavior, not the behavior of anybody else, but how did we set the ball rolling here? You know,
Yes.
what choices did we make to put us in certain situations? And
Yes.
that's why everybody else is off the hook. We've just got to look at our hooks. Right, I've
Yeah.
got no idea. Sounds more like Father Delaney and preaching in a sermon here. But does that make some sort of sense to what's sort of going on at all? Or?
The Father Delaney or the other
No,
stuff?
no, in nomine patris et filii. Because don't forget, at 11, I was sent away to start my priest training college, 11 years of age. And I look at my grandsons now, and my grandsons, both of them are 13 now. You know, I look at them and they're just like little kids. And I was away at 11 years of age, you know, right, being indoctrinated. We were up at 6 o'clock every morning talking in Latin, right? It was just bizarre. So anyway, destiny had it that I didn't stay there for the full hit. I came back, you know. Anyway, I digress. Narcissism in both
Yeah.
male and female. Have you got anything to say about that?
A lot. No, I think in both like the female incarnated and the male incarnate, as well as with, it really has a lot to do as well with, I mean, obviously a lot comes from trauma from childhood, you know, emotional neglect. It's like if someone is growing up in an environment where they have to be out for themselves, that's what I learn. It's the only safe pattern.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, understanding a bit what's happening in that dynamic is important. But I think there's a lot of, you know, people walking around calling everyone narcissists these days. And one thing is a narcissistic tendency. Another thing is to leaving it up to the people who actually knows what a narcissist actually is. Because that's about pointing the fingers again and blaming, right? And being accountable. And there's always a dynamic between two people. You can say as much as on the codependent side in a relation or in a dynamic where there's one narcissist and one codependent. You have the enabler in the codependent, you have the people pleaser. The people pleasing is really as manipulative as the other side, because the reason why you people please is so that people won't go against you. It's, you know, to avoid rejection, anger, abandonment, all of that. So it's both sides. But I think what's really important in each individual now is to look at the masculine and the feminine energy within. Because as you say, you have the dark feminine. There's a lot of power in the dark feminine. It can be used in amazing ways, just like a samurai has a power and knows how to use it in the right way. So having awareness of it, knowing that, you know, that force, that energy within yourself, and know how to use it, and also be accountable and take responsibility if it's, you know, not being used in the right way, and you gain the awareness of it. At the same time as, for example, me as a female, my own masculine energy is something I'm constantly working on and connecting with, because it's something that I experienced really, you know, took over a lot of my life, even though I've always been seen as very feminine, and I've been, you know, expressed as very feminine. In my earlier lives actually, here we go, starting talking from perspective.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's called a very old habit, that one.
Right. Yes. Oh, I use my masculine a lot to, be very disciplined, to do, things both that I enjoy doing and things I thought I should do, and, what was expected, and really to hold the rest of me in place and control myself. And that also made it so that the more I live from my feminine, the more I also have to deal with my fear of my own masculine and my resentment towards my own masculine. And that whole dynamic is really important within each one. I mean, for people who have experienced abuse, it also affects how you relate to that energy within yourself. If you're afraid of it, or if you resent it, if you're, feel superior or inferior, all of those dynamics within oneself and how you relate to the feminine and masculine energy is super important. I think that's like,
So we've gone deep already, haven't we? Really, this is the way it goes. But so are you saying then, Kristin? Are you saying that everything outside of us is like a projection of what's going on inside of us?
Kind of saying that, yes.
Right. Yeah. And I hated it when people said that. They say, no, that's just a projection of what's going on. And it's the way you're processing information through thinking and feeling. And I can see it as clear as anything now. That what I see out there is what I need to either let go of or get hold of in here, because sometimes it's not just a case of going forward and carrying on and battling our way through. Sometimes we need to stop and take a step back, right?
Yes.
So it's good. This is we called this last week the language of light, didn't we? And we talked about all sorts of things, and we said, right, some people didn't like this, but we said this was going to be like an educational thing that we're doing, because we feel like we're being guided in some way.
Yes.
Right. And I don't know about you, but I haven't got a clue what's going to come up. We're just going with it, aren't we, really? And I think that seems to be the only way to do it, is to just remove our heads and just sort of just go with how we feel.
Yeah.
So should I put a quick PowerPoint up then and just do a recap?
Yes, do it.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Okay. So if I go on here like this, slide up, share the screen, son. Okay. All right. I would do, but don't start, Joe. Don't start. Put this up. Okay. And I go back here again. I'm bloody useless at this, honestly, but I'm getting there. Share the screen. Oh, there it is. There it is. Let's see now. So there's our blue being screen. We feel, don't we? And I know, that we're being given information extraterrestrially. And when I say extraterrestrially, all I mean is, for me, it's just an expanded sort of streams of consciousness that are almost like out of the box, that are informing basically everybody on the planet now. And I don't know where it's coming from. I think that we've gone through the Ophiuchus, right, gateway, and we're receiving this information in. But that's where I'm up to. And I keep getting David Bowie, blue, blue, electric blue. But here's the new one. You've been upgraded.
Whoa. I feel honored.
Yeah. So look here, Professor, right? I'll put you on there because they said she knows more than you. I thought, okay, that's fair enough. So this to me, so these sessions really are about, I woke up in 2011 with a big, strong theme, like almost like a voice saying to me, okay, it's time for you now to go and tell the world about the Great Shift. I've never heard of the Great Shift. I didn't know what it was. And within 6 months, I was traveling around the UK talking about this great shift in consciousness, and that's basically what I've been doing ever since, is getting bits and bits of more information. But the great shift, known to many, many ancient cultures and civilizations, is a great big shift of planets where there's all sorts of cyclical changes taking place in the cosmos with a K, that are causing us now to move out of this hell through a purgatorial or cleansing process from fear into love, you know, and love is not what I thought it was. Love to me, unconditional love is not human love. You know, I think human love to me is almost like imprisonment, control. And if I will love you forever, if only you do this, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of conditions attached to the human side of love. But I think this love that I'm talking about is an understanding, really, and a release and a freedom. So, you know, we're being almost like pushed into from here. We're on our way now and being guided into more love, more care, more compassion, more kindness and stuff like that, you know. However, what I keep getting told is that there's not going to be one single event that wipes out the past. It's a progressive thing. It's good, you know, and like I said to you, Kristin, last week, I could be totally wrong here, you know, and if we wake up tomorrow and we're all in nirvana, then all well and good, you know. But I got, well, how can you learn stuff if it all gets wiped away? You know, you're here on planet Earth to experience everything, right? And that's where I'm up to with that one, really. So that's that, really. And
I'm definitely ready to be, you know, shown otherwise. But I think that if you see it from another perspective, which is, you know, from another dimension out of here, yes, it can seem like the blink of an eye because time doesn't exist. But here it's a dragged out experience. That's how I perceive it.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree entirely. And I think it's about feeling all the feelings, focus on feelings first, right? And it's not just the highs, there'll be desperate lows as well, you know, and to understand that the feeling, it's not, you know, I'm not my thinking, I'm not my feeling, I'm the experience that I've got to sort of get from all this stuff, you know. So that's where I'm up to. It's easily said, right? But it's bloody difficult when you're going through a real shitty time, you know what I mean? So, and what's actually happening is the vibrations and the frequency that's basically coming from the central sun through our own sun is causing us and our brain waves to change. And therefore, whether we like it or not, right, our thinking will change and therefore our behavior will change, you know, and that's more powerful than us, you know. And people may be feeling now that their tastes have changed. They're starting to see things differently. They smell things differently. The food that they used to like tastes horrible now, you know. So these would be good indications that the shift is happening in us, you know. So don't be too concerned about this. You know, you might think, wonder what's going on, or have weird and wonderful thoughts. This would be a positive thing in my estimation. So from that there, you know, we're being moved into love, you know, but just as if anybody's into the Kabbalah or the Kabbalah, right, we've been moved as well now. We've gone from what's called the 10th sphere tree of life. And round about 2000, I believe, you know, and I won't go too deeply into this, but almost as if it was like two hidden spheres came back online and it restored us to our full human potential. Because in this state here, we've basically been revolving in Groundhog Day for millions upon millions of years. So while things might have seemed and we felt that we were ascending, we weren't really, because all we were doing is just coming back to the same old story, just basically in a different skin suit. That's the way I explain things. But now the portal has opened and we've got an escape route now into the cosmos itself, you know. I don't know what you feel about that. Does that?
Yes, I because the way I perceive it is really like you talked about the sensitivity, really, when the taste is changing and the smell is changing, and even hearing things you wouldn't have, or sounds you wouldn't have heard before, maybe even have more of a better sight, maybe smelling more. It's about the sensitivity, and that is the unlocking of the more that is here, which is really about like sinking deeper and deeper and deeper in, because then you will also expand out, because the way out in the cosmos is really into the body. And the sensitivity is something we have to great extent, I will say, in the society we live in, been really at war with, because it's not comfortable to live as a sensitive human in the society we have. And it causes, you know, diseases, a lot of judgment of self, and all of this. And it's about, I think as well, I mean, befriending this change and this shift, because it's, in my perception, happening whether we want or not. But the more we can actually become friends with our sensitivity and start living more and more, like take the smallest steps to actually embrace the sensitivity, and even asking yourself, you know, how the sensitivity I'm feeling now, it feels too much, I'm overwhelmed, there's too much emotion, there's too much smell, it's too much sound, it's, you know, whatever. Just find a breath, come back in, and ask yourself, how is this, where in my life is my sensitivity something positive? So we like really start learning and perceiving it as something that is positive as well, so that we feel more safe to really be in the body and open the senses, because it's the way. And I think that's the portal that you were talking about, is really the sensitivity and the
Yeah,
body.
I agree. And I think as our sensitivity increases, it's like hell, isn't it? It's like hell to start with, because if you've been used to suppressing and repressing your feelings, right, I don't think anybody's going to get away with that anymore. However, there is a way that if you allow all this repressed energy to transform through an open and flowing heart, first and foremost, that's the way that it regulates and governs this process. So this is really, to me, about opening the heart, you know, as the, some people will call that the Christ Center, or the number 13. I won't go too much into this, but maybe over the weeks we can talk further. But I think now we've got the opportunity, rather than fire it at anybody and kick off and be angry, because nobody's doing this to us. It's the way that we're emotionally processing information and feelings that's actually causing this. So I agree with you. And what tends to happen with me is, as the radar expands and extends, I go back into like a paranoia. You know, I can't be around lots of people, and I'll go down the local shops, and it's like, don't come too close to me, you know. But I can recognize that now. I know it's just another extension of my sensitivity. But beforehand, the only way I could overcome that temporarily was to drink as much as I possibly could, to try and numb myself down, you know. So I would suggest to people, and you know, you don't have to listen to us or believe us. In fact, I prefer if you didn't believe a single thing I say, unless it seems to sit true with you, you know.
Exactly.
Because I'm only learning myself a bit at a time, and I'm just sharing where I'm up to. But what I'm trying to say is, comfort seeking behaviors, right, starts with emotional disturbance, emotional discomfort. If you don't know what to do, you will go out and try and find some relief in another way. And that's where addictive behavior comes in, really, you know. And one of the biggest is obviously overeating, you know, and stuff like that, you know. And there's a massive epidemic of type 2 diabetes in the world now. And I think that it's all to do with our misunderstanding of how to handle suppressed and repressed emotions.
Yes, I think so as well. Once we can, I mean, I can see it in my own life when I get, you know, overwhelmed by emotions, or, you know, things that are happening in my life that I'm in resistance to, that I don't want to happen. It's just like, it can feel so much. So it's like, it's, how can I possibly be able to feel all of this? Like, there's, you know, can be crying for hours, and there's some anger, like for me, and like sadness and tears has been the easy one my whole life, and anger has been the super suppressed one, like being afraid of other people being angry and not being at all in contact with my own anger. And then, you know, I will have like small bursts of anger coming up, and then I get super happy because it's like, this is healthy, I'm feeling anger. And then I'm like, no, I wasn't supposed to lose the anger. And it's like, you know, it's all of it, but it's just being present with it. And whenever, like, when I don't remember it myself, I'm really happy to have some very wise close friends that can remind me that you are not your emotions. And that's the thing, you know, if we get caught by, you know, that wave of emotion, and we forget really that we aren't emotion, that's when the fear can really take us as well. So remembering that we are really the awareness watching the emotion and the thought, and having people with us when we need, when it's too, because that's okay as well. We don't need to fix everything ourselves. You know, we can't have someone sit with us while we are moving through an emotion and expressing it. And, you know, if there is a person we know that can hold the space. And what you said before as well with the projection of everything, that projection from one part causes a defensiveness. It's a projection and protection, really. That's what happens. And then nothing can move. It gets completely stuck.
Brilliant. I'll go on to the next slide now, see what's coming up. So just to recap on this, right, we've been opened up now. 2 spheres have come back online, which represent new ways of thinking. And this is now available to everybody. So in actual fact, this multidimensional, multimodal quantum reality is open to all of us now. Some people will understand what I've just said there, but as we go on, maybe I can understand, you know, I can sort of explain this a bit more. But we've got an opportunity now to tune into our hearts and our souls and be guided from there to almost like recorrect, recalibrate, and realign ourselves, which is our own perfect balance, you know. So, and that's what we're going to do really, is if we move through the chakras, and I won't spend too much time on the chakras, but if we surrender, our soul, or the deepest level of our own intelligence, will guide us through the energies that we need to work with next. And I found that to be very important, is if we think we know what to do, we need to let go of that thought and try and feel our way through these things. Because it's almost like our heads, the tricky dickies, are always trying to sort of misdirect us and divert us away from what's really good for us. It's almost the battle between head, heart, and soul, you know. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the chakras really, but it's moving through these, and as we move through the different chakras, you know, we increase in frequency. But it's, to me, it's not all about going higher. Sometimes people need to go back to their roots and work on that one there, really, you know, because, you know, they may need to fill a few gaps or plug a few holes there. And by doing that, it may take them higher up here. And, you know, so really, once again, different people have to do different things in order to realign themselves, or let me say it another way, in order to be realigned by this bigger energy that's bigger than us, you know. So there's just quickly a run through the different sort of major endocrine glands that are associated with the chakras as well. So if we just let go, surrender, and ask for help from our deepest self, and feel the flow. It's almost, some people, if they were sort of religious, could call it being moved by spirit. And I understand what they mean, you know, but if you want to talk about Tai Chi or prana or ki, or there's all different words for this spiritual feeling. The next thing is really is this is how it seems to work. You know, this is us with our skin taken off, you know, so we can remove our skin. And we have this electrical system that works through all our body. And what's actually happening is, as the new energy booms in from the great central sun, it focuses on our sun. We all know, don't we, that there's massive solar fluxes happening at the moment. Well, that's impacting upon the way the chakras work. The chakras then send energy, magnetic energy, through our meridian system. The meridian system then, because of some sort of a magneto-electric effect, will stimulate various areas of the nervous system. And when you consider that the nerves, we've got the pineal gland up here, the pituitary gland here, then we've got the throat, then we've got the heart, then we've got the solar plexus, then we've got the sacral chakra, and then the pubococcygeal plexus, which is the one that affects, that's the root chakra that's associated to how we ground ourselves. And that's the one that gets blocked when we're afraid. Exactly. And when we're afraid, right, we lose our connection with Mother Earth, and we're unable then to think clearly or remain emotionally calm. So as Kristin's just mentioned, we're almost like living all the time on the defensive. And when you're on the defensive, there's hardly any time to be creative.
Exactly.
So that's that really. So the idea would be is to understand that there's lots of exercises called central pillar exercises or middle pillar exercises, or sometimes in yoga they call this the Hara line, or in Tai Chi and Qigong they'll practice like different moves in order to stimulate this central tendency. And when you actually stimulate it, this Kundalini awakens, and it's a new energy which brings with it new understanding, new consciousness. However, if your heart's not open and the Kundalini kicks off, it will go straight from the root into your head, and it'll drive you absolutely insane. So as far as I'm concerned, the only way to regulate this is to find methods to so-called open up the heart. What do you think about that, Prof?
I love my new title. I love this. I just really love when the energy and the physical and the science can be merged, because there's so many in one or the other, and this is exactly what we need to both get, the heart and the feeling, the sensitivity of the energies, and the understanding, because understanding something, knowing and getting the wisdom of something, that is also what's just before an experience. We have to align everything. And what you say with the there's so many things I want to say. Well, the fear that is held in the root, that's something that they keep talking about in channelings as well, because it's really both. They have talked about it a lot for the masculine specifically, like the male incarnated, because there's a lot of like clearing of the sexual distortions, and that has a lot to do with the fear, so that the energy actually just moves from the root and not through the solar plexus. And when the energy actually in the male goes through the solar plexus as well, that is what and then up to the heart, of course, that's what creates that safe container that the feminine needs and wants. So in order to get that energy actually moving, which is also, if you say the life force energy or the creative energy, the sexual energy, the Kundalini is really, same or different names for the same thing. But to really sit with those fears, feel them, and know that they aren't true. I mean, obviously, if there's a lion in front of you, it's a different thing, but that's not the kind of fear we're talking about. It's old traumas, it's old stories. We have to feel it, and we have to weed it out, really. And when it comes, like, for example, with the Kundalini, I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening when I was 3 years old. And of course, obviously, that got blocked later. It was a big part of my healing journey as well. It was blocked in my throat, and that has everything to do with expressing, being authentic, not only being the good girl. Like it's like what you say, a lot of people that have spontaneous Kundalini awakenings, when it just shoots up to the head, can go into like a psychosis or something, because what I see, what I experience, they can't hold it, because it's so important. We are accessing all of this gradually, because we are to embody it and hold it in the physical vessel. So both bringing the energy down and do these kind of exercises as you're talking about, and how practices that brings the energy both into the body and into the earth, and also opens up so we get a flow in that energy. And also remember, like with the breath, that it goes underneath the trauma, it goes underneath the tense muscles, it goes underneath the tension in the nervous system, and really hold that and let yourself sink in. It's also been like the connective tissue has been shown to me several times today, and you know way more about that than I do, so I would love if you could go into that a bit. But they showed me like the central nervous system and then the connective tissue, that the connective tissue is like when there is a fear held that isn't released, that is just like the central nervous system is just like standing in the state of fear, then the connective tissue reacts like a protection. So it tenses up to keep the central nervous system and the organs safe. And we have to work from both the like physical and the outside, and move the body as well as feeling our emotions. Not only sit in meditation and try to open the heart, but feel the emotions and do what we can to let the central nervous system actually start relaxing, and also moving the body while we are doing some of this, because that helps the connective tissue to start releasing so that it all can work well together.
Well, when we come out of this, we can carry on with that, because I've been getting the same thing all the time now, is tell them about solar plasma, right? And talk about the plasma in the body and the water and hydration. So when we pop out, we'll have a go.
Yes.
Just bear with me. I don't. So all these wires. I mean, the electrical system. You can simplify it. This is that the electricity in the form of electrons runs down these. You know. So it's almost like a wiring diagram. This really, and you can just imagine if one of them's short circuited or obstructed in some way, or even cut, then obviously the sensations that normally come through won't get through to the end organ that they need to, you see. So is there some way that we can reconnect and maybe even develop new neural pathways? Well, yes, there is, because neural plasticity is a thing now. It's a thing in physiology, and it's becoming more and more important, as well as stem cell research and stem cell regeneration. So there's lots of stuff on the way out that we've been talking about for God knows how long. So the next bit is, oh, that's the thing there. This is basically that fellow there, or that human being in the middle. That's what's being acted upon. And this is great, the universal soul, this really. But more than anything else it's based on this 12 sphere. Well, actually, this bit here is the 13th sphere, you know, and this is the one that oversees. So there's 12 plus 1. This is the one, you know. And if we can get in contact with this first and foremost, it will then redirect us through all these various lines, meridians, nadis, axial and axiotonal lines, through feeling. So we need to get back in touch with our subtle sensitivity, because it's an understanding that will take us to the next action that we need to take in order to de-obstruct and cleanse us, right? And that's what we're aiming for in the end. We're aiming for this full flow, fully aligned, fully conscious, right? Full spectrum human being, you know. And I'm going to come out of that now. And yeah, I've got no idea what I'm going to say next, so it's over to you.
I think there's so many ways to go. Well, I would love for you to talk a bit more about the connective tissue. But I think also the last picture is really like the toroidal field we could see. And that's also, you know, it's always a circulation. You know, we have the circulatory system inside of the body, but it's also in the energy. So we are emitting energy out, and there's constantly coming energy in. And if we are living in a paradigm of protection, whether that is that I have to protect myself for energies instead of actually emitting my own energy out in my field, so I'm safe, you know, it's all interconnected. And I think if we could just think more of everything as a circulation, because that's whether it's the emotions moving through the body, or it's just, you know, a thought passing by and we can let go of it instead of holding on to it, or it's our energy actually moving out of our body instead of holding onto our energy or trying to force some energy to stay out, or to let it circulate.
Real. So to me, this is all about light. It's all about photonic light. It's the movement of photons, but it's not just the movement of photons. It's the movement of protons as well. And protons are hydrogen ions. So it's about hydrogen, but it's not just about photons and protons. It's also something about phonons as well, because phonons are little quantum particles of sound as well. And they're almost like the vibrations. So this is all the P's. But to go back to the photonic plasma that's actually flooding the planet now and working through our own sun, these influxes of protonic light are working through a plasma. They're working through the plasma. So the light is traveling through the plasma. And that's also impacted when it impacts our body as well and works through the skin. It works through the water in the body. right? And the water in the body, see, here we go, it's back now, it's here now. Go on, son, you're doing well. So the water in the body is affected by the light. And as you know, water is hydrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen. So we've got the protons there as well. So what actually happens is the light in various frequencies will cause the water to change frequency as well. So that's how light is transmitted. But it's not just ordinary water, it's something called structural water, and it's the fourth phase of water. And this structured water actually works around through the connective tissue, and it surrounds the nervous system, right? And so what happens is the light comes in, it impacts upon the pH of the water, that impacts upon the way that the electrons work, right? And depending on the frequency, it will have a different impact upon different areas of the body as well. So that's how this all steps down. But science, ordinary, basic, lying science, right? They don't want us to know about this structured water, you know. But it's true. It's a sort of a phase that's a superconductive phase that will allow light to come in. And then this links, and we can talk about this in the future, to something called optogenetics as well, where we can use not only light, but we can use sound to change the way the electrons actually move in our body and de-obstruct. I always see like a spiral, you know, like a toilet brush. I see like these mini toilet brushes going like that through the nervous system and allowing more and more and more light to come through. And it's the different frequencies of light, right, that impact upon the different chakras that will direct the energy to where in the body it needs to be worked on next, really. Now, the connective tissue, as Kristin's just said, in fear, it's almost like a cling wrap or cling film around the muscles and the nervous system. And in fear, everything tightens up like a shroud. That's the problem. If we've been in thixotropic, there's a word for you, thixotropic, I'll have to look that up later. It's this thixotropic effect that's caused us to be bunged up. And what we're really asked to do now is, as we let go, more and more of the fluid and the plasma in the body will start to work around. If we move with it, if we have connective tissue massage as well, that will clear the obstructions. But we need to be moving. We need to be doing something like waving hands in the clouds. And there's an upflow and there's an outflow as well. We won't know, we won't know about this until we start to feel it. And at first, you may feel obstructed, right, and tense. That would be a good thing, because at least you're getting back in touch with your feelings then, right? The idea would be is don't go and drink as much alcohol as you can, because temporarily that can give you a freedom effect, but you just need to spend loads of money on alcohol to get it. You can do all this stuff naturally now and allow, if you like, the soul to come in and inhabit the physical body. And that's what I get, inhabit. And they told me today clearly, as Joe, a habit is what monks were. It's the thing that they were, a habit. It's right. So sometimes we've got to take all these old habits off and basically become completely and utterly naked and be happy with it as well. I've said a lot there. I don't know whether that made sense, but
it's making a lot of sense. You know, in some channelings they've said again and again that light and sound, like the vibrational medicine, is really the future medicine. And with what you're saying about connective tissue, I'm remembering, even though I haven't like listened through the whole channeling that came through today, when I hear words that was said, sometimes there are like bits and pieces that comes back. And they talked about the connective tissue and the liquid part of it to be one of the main clues to resolving or curing cancer actually in the future, which I think is very interesting.
But I see that. Somebody asked me a few weeks ago, how did I see that? And I see cancer is, we don't need to fight cancer. That's a complete misunderstanding. We need to understand what's causing it. And what's causing it is simply an obstruction to the free flow of this vital energy through our bodies. Because where it's obstructed, there'll be too much energy hitting the cell at that point, right? And the cell, because it's got a plasma layer around it called the cell, what's it called, that thing? The cell membrane.
Yes.
The cell membrane picks up the information from there, and it sends information back to the cell nucleus, which says, hang on, I'm being bombarded here. I need to defend myself. So it becomes stronger, and it becomes stronger than the cells around it then, and that then starts to spread. So really it all starts off with an obstruction to the free flow of unconditional love through our bodies. And that's what I think is happening now. Is it's almost like unconditional love's flowing in now to say, get out of the way. I'm actually coming in to flush you through and give you a big clean breath of fresh air, right? So you can really understand what love's all about.
Yes, and that's the same we talked about in the beginning, right? With projection and protection. If someone is projecting their shit onto you, you go into defensive, you know, you become protective instead of, I mean, at least if it's getting to you at some point or at some level. It's the same that's happening inside of the cell. It's again the mirroring, you know, from the smallest parts until our relationships.
But no, that's right. And somebody said to me, what part of God do you see yourself as? I said, like part of the toenail, right? You know, but it's in, but the point about it is, it's a cell in the end of the foot, right?
Yes.
But it's important. It's needed, right? We're all needed because we're all sort of cells in this great big universal oneness, you know. And if you can do pictures in your head, you know, fine. I've just had another thought then, but I can't share that on here, right? Because he told me, no, you're more like a different part, and I said, thanks very much for that. So let's just have a feeling here, because I think, you know, we started off, didn't we, doing light language, right?
Yes.
When we met, and that was very powerful. And lots of people have been on to me regarding our last session that we did as well, to say that was authentic, that was true. I could feel things, you know. Yes. And like I said to people, you know, I just go with it, see what happens, you know. And it's almost like you've got to let go of yourself and get over yourself and just let go of any embarrassment and see what comes out, you know. And I really couldn't give a shit anymore, you know. And it seems to work with people. I think more and more people are opening up and starting to allow this light language to come through, because I can see that's part of what you've just called vibrational medicine. It's almost like boom, 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 boom. It's like a percussion, right? That's actually causing all the shit that's built up to loosen up, and then the light comes through and flushes it away, you know. So that's where I see.
It's basically sound frequency, and it bypasses the mind. And that's the clue, because this mind is the biggest block. I mean, it's a really intelligent tool. It's a great tool. We need our brain. It does a lot of magnificent stuff. But when we use it to try to understand things that are bigger than us, it doesn't work, and control things out of fear, because it gives this illusional sense of safety. So
and sorry, love, this extraterrestrial to me means terra means earth. So this is meaning body, mind, soul, spirit, that we're moving into, if you like, higher dimensions of understanding that are at the moment invisible to us, but we can still feel them, right? So I think this is another way of allowing these energies that are in these morphic fields to come through and cleanse us, you know. And is it something outside of us? No, it's a deeper part of ourselves. There's actually nothing outside of us. Pardon?
Other cells, so this huge being.
Yeah, but we're all part of the same thing. This is the whole thing, is there's nothing outside of ourselves, big S. So I can feel movement coming on, right? I don't know how this is going to work. Come on then, come on.
Even though it's like galactic, we don't have to, or we have to like remember that the Earth is part of the galaxy as well. So when I channel light language, sometimes I have this which is like really light voice, and it goes normally like faster, which is very elemental. And that's something I've heard, like being in the forest and seeing gnomes running around, like they're always, you know, being a bit funny with me. But that's really, it's a type of light language as well, but it's from the earth. So it's everywhere. It's just
maybe we should call it, we could maybe call it Well, it's vibrational medicine, isn't it, really?
It
You know,
is.
it's communication. Maybe it's called galactic communication. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I feel it. I mean, I've seen things. Normally the big dark things, you know, but I realize now that the big dark stuff that was terrorizing me as a child was actually there for my own protection. And that would be considered to be the beast. But it's not a beast, really. When you come to terms with it, it becomes the power that's actually dormant within most human beings. And I think that we're being allowed now to get back in touch with that power, but to be used for good purpose now, almost like snow plows and laser beams now, just cutting through all the crap to clear a space to a new earth. Look, I feel like in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus, you know. So,
Loving this.
shall we do? Shall we do a bit of and see what comes up?
Definitely. We feel it's coming.
Yeah. Grysym, dwi'n rhoi siom da. A mae gwtwr I byd yr aswm dwi'n rhoi dechrau sa.
Trerurada turu krieg narakta ara churukun nilarata arata nuru tonaret cherkat ehaka.
Mae gio asw dwi'n rhoi mwnt yr asw I. O'r ydyn boch nhw hwt sy'n at ni gydyn.
Tereku aratum paratun churukun nilarata ayatum parat aler churukinert intiaka.
Ia, so sŵd i'r ymwyd o gwr. Ar aswm dwi'n grab di siem dwi'n rhoi. Hwch nhw wdr beth sy'n ti'n ymwyd nitw.
Tiun kurukun nilarata ayat churukun malaratu ayat aniat churukun nilaratu ayat aniata.
Ia, dy gwrs ym tia. Hwlwyd nad sed ni hwt. Hwt chats mae hwt rhaid nechach. Hwt ymwyd nats.
Hoyt akarutu hayt hoyt churun larata ayat kata ayat churun narata ayat churun ayaka.
Ia, so gwr ymwyd ti gael. Sifr ymwyd do chwn siarad ni hedra bat ne sei. O loch nhw wdr beth sy'n dyba.
Charalatata, churularatata, churularata, churularatata, I charat to ara ut charatarata, I chorat
A bys fwy sybr gadondio ti bara. Sybr gach nadw sybr ia. Hwrdd net ysgrifennu nadw sy'n bad. Ar ach nodor ysym dara. Chrynda bas rwy. Ar am ond dwchwch rwden. Wyw gosod bi yno bwyd. Hanol so sy'n ma gwrdd da siam dy greu. Hwrdd net sy'n I yno dwfo sians greu. Harym mwnd wdyn des mae hwten zalt no horan ne mettish.
Neleraya tai quad, elo churul renara, aoka in walsh uaika muirti aqua, tru eka ya.
Stop there for Ranjo, Napokos, Yokopolojo, Ulan Jakoba, Ortansat, Olat Nekaso, Latonjo.
Chilere hea quairata, tuloha tarata, ujurunia.
Ola Yukut Sapatiko Trapapa,
Tlera quaratu the churuliricte aratu amarutunt at chelere tereteroto ante eka.
Ola Staknohon, Hasodra, Hut Nagyarto Voajo.
Ter aeka urata aleratuun tapa ai churkunniaha, tuolar ataye tuamaru tuchurlereniaka.
Ayukut Masate Gua,
Queka,
Vaya Gua.
querkniakunka.
Ola Yukasam Tikalavatsa Kulavate, Holan Yakuto,
Eller hunta arata hunta terterlerundi arato karete moeler terete ko ikika.
Mikusari on tushama. Latosun yekorabata shintabai. Surununi tepeshinda ton fam serua. Ala santa gramatushima. Not active for sata.
Eller tuerk te keka. Trekeka.
Tak. I am done. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's that deeper one's coming through much more powerfully now.
Yes.
And what tends to happen is when it comes from the depth. Seems to come out of my heart, and it clears my throat. And what tends to happen is I get the feeling in there, you know, and sometimes it goes, I can't explain it, but it goes at the front, but sometimes it goes behind that and then out through there. So that's almost like, again, a sonic cleanse, really.
Yes.
But there's some sort of a big, deepy, rocky, dragony thing, you know, and I mentioned to you in the week, I think, you know, everybody's going on about dragons, and there's a lot of Viking stuff going on, you know. And until recently, I didn't do Vikings, Scandinavia, Valkyries, or anything like that. But I am being bombarded, right? And it's your fault.
It's good to take the blame. I don't know much about the Vikings, actually. Like, I do get some questions sometimes about all this old Nordic stuff, and I have very little knowledge about it. I have seen Vikings, though. You know, I don't see as much physically now as I did before, because it got like more and more physical, basically, to get me to deal with it. But I have, where I lived a few years back, like an hour north of Oslo. I didn't know that had been a place with a lot of Vikings, but it was just driving to the house I lived at the place, or at that time. I saw all these Vikings suddenly like running around, like they were huge, like running on the fields, and then they were, you know, cheering and having like a party with this whatever thing they were drinking, and it was like, what the hell is going on here? And then afterwards, I got to know that there had been a lot of Vikings there, because it's a huge lake, and there were, yeah, things going on there. So there's definitely a lot of that energy. And I think it has to do with all these timelines, because now they're showing all these layers with the timelines again. So it's probably like, you know, the memories and everything coming up.
No, I agree. And I think that's what I'm feeling myself now, is this multi-dimensional thing is also a timeline thing, which is overlaid, and it's almost like not collapsing as such, but all merging into one single like timeline for each individual. And I think that there's a timeline and a specific frequency and a specific vibration that represents each individual soul's purpose. I think that's what's happening now. And therefore, the images that people are getting will be almost like to cleanse and realign them and bring them into the now moment. And I never say now moment. So there you go. This is a now moment saying thing, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. So, darling, there we are. Can you feel anything else coming?
I'm just loving this. I'm really enjoying it.
Well, I feel it's helping me, you know, cleanse, clean, and all sorts of different stuff, you know. And honestly, I mean, people do ask me, what about this? What about that? Honestly, I really don't have a clue. And this is the truth, you know, the truth of it. I know a lot of stuff about stuff, but about what's actually happening on the planet, I'm just going in trust and faith that the next adventure or event, right, I'll be given the information on the action that I need to take in that moment now. So it's almost like I'm being forced in a loving way to stay right in the moment.
Yes, I will say the same. The deepest practice for me that has been throughout much of last year, also because of events happening in my life, and it's only increasing, is presence.
Yeah.
It is coming back to presence, because from that as well, you know, I've always been an overthinker. Like, the more I can prepare for any possible outcome, and, you know, try to, you know, just using a lot of energy on that.
Yeah.
Really efficient way of using energy, I must say. It's coming back to the present and trying not to worry. Well, every time I catch myself in worrying about something or fearing whatever might happen or how someone will react or whatever, it's coming back to this now, because the more I can be in my body, the more I can be present with myself, the more I can actually feel what's going on in my body, the more I can have an authentic response to whatever is coming up in my life, rather than being out there and then having to come back and find out what actually went on and then try to prepare for what's ever going on out there. It's like, the more I can be in my body with my breath and be present, I can also let go of a lot of things that's happening in my mind, because that's actually like leaning into trust, resting into trust, is the letting go of a lot of other things. And that is the trust that you need, you know, when you experience a loving push from the universe.
Yeah.
I can feel that as well, but the more resistance I will be in, the less loving I will feel that push is. So it's really a lot about the resistance. So coming back to the presence, because then we can really learn to flow more with whatever is coming up in life, and be curious about what it's bringing and what it's teaching and what it's developing in you, rather than what it's doing to you or destroying, or, you know.
And I think more and
being
more.
really
I'm sorry.
honest with ourselves that we don't know everything.
No,
Because I can let go of, like, I've always wanted to have all the answers, always searching for answers. And I do love to learn things. I love to, like, really go in depth into things and understand things. And that has value, but also letting go of needing to have answers, because I just have to float with whatever, and I don't have all the answers, and it can be okay. That's really creating a lot of freedom for me.
No, I agree entirely. And I think I don't need to know anymore. I really don't. I just keep saying, thy will, not mine, be done. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking to the deeper part of myself. You know, I say the higher self, because I have a picture that this intelligence is sitting all around me, and it can see for miles, and it can see situations that are on the way, and it'll give me a kick up the bottom to say, pay attention to this one now, son. Right. And I get that feeling, you know, that push. It's like, oh, hang on, I'll listen in and I'll get to sort that out now. And I tend to go with it, even though I can't logically understand what it means. I go with it, and it avoids some catastrophe, or it's some sort of a pleasant thing. I have to be honest, though, in the last few months, I've found things difficult, you know, and the joy of living is my theme, and I try and do that, right? But I haven't found it that joyful. Right. The majority of my life over the last 2 or 3 months hasn't been joyful, although there's obviously been moments where I've been filled and completely overwhelmed with joy, you know. But I'm just being honest, you know. I mean, you know, sometimes I wake up and think, just fucking kill me now, you know, because it's just too hard, you know. And I'm only being honest. And then I go, oh, hang on, hang on, right? Steady on, son, steady on, right? We don't know what's coming. We don't know what's up. But I do feel when we do things like this, that it's serving a deeper purpose for some reason, you know. And I'm not out, Kristin.
Feels really grounding to me. I can relate very much to that time frame.
Yeah.
Like, all being
Yeah.
like, what the fuck, universe?
Yeah.
Pardon my language. Like, I did not sign up for this. Like, there's just no way. Like, cut a crap. But then also, like, the deep sense of connection and feeling like, okay, there is like those moments when I feel that surrender. that's amazing. That's a freedom and trust that I hope to experience more in my life. So
Well,
it's
to be honest,
both.
that channeled message you did the other day, and you were saying that there will be more and more earthquakes and things and tsunamis. And then the next day in Japan, right, that happened the next day, right? And I thought, has she done this on the same day that it happened, or was it the day before? And I thought, no, it was the day before. I thought, God, that's good. That's good. I must listen to it more often.
Yes, I think from like things happening on the with the earthquakes is what I can feel the most, like physically on my body. It's
well, I do too, and you said about the happenings at the magnetic core of Earth as well, because that's being affected by the magnetic core of the sun as well. So that's like that string thing, you know. And it's quite clear to me that global or climate change is because the globe's moving around, you know, right? But I'm not going to get into all that nonsense, you know what I mean? But it makes sense that over time there's slight changes, and what used to be an ocean becomes a desert over a long time, you know. So we're always going through these gradual changes, and I think the more time you can sit with it, the more you feel the gradual changes taking place, because nothing's static, is it? Nothing static at all. It's always moving, like ourselves, you know. That was a bit deep, that really, but
it's beautiful. It's about allowing rather than monitoring.
Allowing. And something else that I got as well, I've talked to a few people this week who are going through lots of tough stuff, you know. And this comes, and I sort of can feel it coming, and I'm thinking, oh shit, don't get me to say that. And I go, you know, this isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And I think, fucking hell, did I just say that then? And they go, you know, I think you might be right, you know. And I said, sometimes when you seem to be going through catastrophic changes, there's actually some bigger, deeper purpose meant for it. And I know in my own life, having gone through loads of shit and come out the other end, I look back now and I see it's almost as if it was all planned out, right? You know. And there's no reason, you know, we might think something's collapsing, but it might just be a temporary sort of a change of direction, and it might come back all the way around again with a different footing. Who knows?
Like, because you have all these connections, right? It's a structure, some sort of geometric pattern or structure, and it takes a lot of energy to take those parts apart from each other, you know, to break it up. That's what we experience as the breakdown, which we sometimes experience, well, often experience to be really a breakthrough, because this is needed for it to reorganize itself. That feels chaotic. That is experienced as chaos because there's no structure, but then it can actually come together in a more beautiful, divine, another kind of geometric pattern, you know, that is a new structure. And then it's like everything is different. But that part, when it's just breaking apart and when it's chaos before it's like finding its new way to come together, that's tough on the human. That's why we need compassion for ourselves and for others, because it sucks to be human sometimes, but it's also really amazing. It's all of it.
Yeah, it is. It's a recalibration. It's a recalibration of the human psycho-cybernetic loop, and I think, thanks very much. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Well, I'm like, what does that mean? Right. And again, just trust it, and you'll get the understanding, as I've said before, 3 months after you've taken the action. I said, well, thank you very much for that.
Yes.
So there we are. We'll do another one of these at some point, shall we?
Yes.
And carry on from here. And thanks, everybody. I noticed that last time somebody asked about, could we talk about herbs and things like that? I have got a book somewhere, a PDF book, right, on herbal medicine, and I'll dig that out and I'll send it to that person, right? My wife is into herbs and homeopathy, and she does a lot of pendulum dowsing and stuff like that, you know. So that's how she will go off to a plant, and I see it. This is at night time, you know. Do you want water? She's saying in her mind, do you want water? And it'll go one way or the other. And our plants we've got massive green big things all inside the house and everything, but she relies on the pendulum, so she's very sensitive to all that as well, you know.
Beautiful.
So you know, there's loads and loads of different stuff, you know. I use a pendulum to douse chakras as well, you know. When I first did it, right, people used to say to me, "You moved your hand there," and I'm thinking, no, I'm not. I could feel the flow going through, you know, and it would go one way. And so I'm sort of helping people to develop more sensitivity to their own internal energy systems, really, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get into that and see what happens next. Oh, and finally, before we go, right, I've been told that there's a particular frequency or note or tone to each of those different dimensions, right?
Yes.
You know, and I've been told that there'll be a song or a tune or some sort of a thing that will relate to one of those. So if you play it, then it will open it up, and then you'll be, you know, all this flow will come in. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. I don't think that there's a general pattern. I think that you've got to identify your own stuff, you know.
Yes.
So I've got ideas flowing in about the 12 spheres
Yes.
for the individual soul. No, for the individual human to ask their soul, which one do we need to work on? And let's say that they can use a pendulum then, and it drops on number 9, and then they may get their own information then as to what to do next. So maybe this is a way forward that everybody can do it, you know. But
Yes.
but what I found out more than anything else is you've got to find out what works for you.
Yes.
That brings openness and flow and joy, and do more of it then. And I think that's when you get more intuitive, innate guidance then.
Yes. Use discernment with anything.
Yeah.
Always.
And if there's anything tell you to go out and do any harm, it's probably not worth listening to that part. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I think they do every now and then a red herring comes through just to see if you're paying attention, really, more than anything else. Darling, I love the bones of you. Thanks very much. I've enjoyed this
You too.
immensely. I look forward to our next one. So when we feel it's the right time, we'll let everybody know. And I hope everybody who's listening to this gets something from it. But like I've said many times, is what you're looking for is not out there. You know, it's probably not in here. It's definitely not here first. It's here. And I think if you can listen to that or get the feeling, it'll send information up here and then act upon that then, really. And that was like the unicorn. So on. I've just looked at myself there. Do you like me beard? It's growing in it. I'm like becoming a wise old man.
You're a wise old man.
No, bollocks. So I'm gonna
Unicorn.
yeah, I've been playing around with it. I'm thinking, nah, I don't like it. It's all too itchy and horrible. Right, my love. Well, thanks very much, and lots of love to you and yours. And I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed. Looking forward to the next time. And I
Okay,
really love you.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.